Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. It's actually my favorite day of the week. Call me crazy, but I really have been enjoying my Mondays. And today I have a remarkable human being, friend, and an inspiration, Gregg Korrol. And I met Gregg at Date with Destiny at a Tony Robbins event. It's been almost 2 years ago, right? Like a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because I made the commitment to join Master University. And, I'm like, all right, I'm going to travel to Florida alone. And I was kind of nervous because I didn't know anybody at Date with Destiny. So I kind of sat like towards the back of the room. Plus I came late and I was trying to find a seat. And, I'm warming up. It's kind of like it's kind of an intense environment. So it's like, and it was pretty new to me. And that's where I met Gregg because he was sitting in front of me at the event. And I'm telling you, your energy just like inspired me. And it was so fun. And we were dancing and, you dance, you hug. And I was like, I want to hang out with this dude. Like, you are awesome. So I just really appreciated you making me feel like, all right, this is cool. Like, I'm excited. And then, at every Tony event, we break into groups and I always wind up wandering because I just love connecting with all different types of people. So I just wanted to highlight that because you have amazing energy. You're so fun and you do so much. And then, afterwards we exchange information and I saw you just talk about your book and the Gifted Storyteller. And I just think it's really unique and it's stuff that I think everyone should hear. And it just so happens that Gregg is re-releasing his book tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So I wanted to talk about your results coaching and how has that journey been for you?
Well, first off, thanks, Jen, for having me on. And yeah, I remember the exact moment meeting you, turning around and seeing you. Yeah. And the dancing, the whole deal. So feeling is totally mutual. Awesome. So thank you for being you. In terms of coaching is phenomenal. It's an incredible opportunity to help kind of move people, for lack of better words, past themselves and the story they've created for themselves towards what they want to achieve in their own life. And I've seen it happen with myself numerous times before I was able to work, obviously, with other people. But I'm very gifted and lucky to have the opportunity to coach people and to work with them and help them make moves. It's been quite a journey, for lack of better words.
Amazing. And so you're also a principal, and I'm sure that's been a little bit challenging during this whole COVID situation. And I know in New York, people aren't going back to school till September. So how has that been for you and your students?
It's definitely been challenging. I think in terms of my specific school, we've been doing rather well because we are our technology school. We've been using Google Classroom and a lot of these tools for a long time. So for us, it was just the only difference was we weren't in the same room using them. Kids always had homework, on things of that nature digitally. That part wasn't challenging. The challenging is the not seeing each other. The challenging is not being able to celebrate every day with one another and create that home environment in the school building, outside of a building. But I have to, give kudos to my staff who are absolutely stunning and amazing and have really made this moment into something that kids are still working, kids are still learning, they're still involved, and they're still doing. So yeah, they're doing an amazing job.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And, it's amazing that they have someone like you to lead them through that because
thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing. And now I can't wait to talk about the Gifted Storyteller. And, basically my understanding of it is we all have stories. And, we talked a little bit about before this call is that I could have something happen to me and you could have something happen to you. And we could totally have completely different stories surrounding it and different perspectives on it. How does your book go into that? And you're an amazing storyteller, but I just want to hear.
Yeah, so, I mean, people often, they see the title and they think it's about how to tell a better story. And once they read the intro, they understand it's about the story you tell within your life. It always fascinated me that 20 different people could see the same situation and walk away with completely different perspectives of it. You could have a perfect example is somebody's in a car crash and you have 20 witnesses, and some people walk away and never want to get in a car again or complain about it. And other people walk away and realize the importance of everyday life and how every moment is so vital and you never know when things can be taken away. And depending on the story and the perspective you choose, you then start making decisions and taking action in your life. And you literally can transform your life by finding a more empowering story in the situation, or finding the opportunity whenever something is present. So the book basically takes it takes you on that journey of how to do that. So in other words, just to rewind, I had put the book out about 3 or 4 years ago and did really well, and I was very proud. I won a few awards regarding it, and got a lot of emails and calls. It was just wonderful. And the publishing company had been taken over last year by a new publishing company, and the CEO had asked me to re-put out the book because he read it, he liked it, and he said that there's a lot more you can even do with this if you wanted to. So I did. So I took on that challenge and that opportunity and expanded it. So I actually created an expanded edition which has more text, has lessons at the end so that you can actually apply some of the stuff to yourself. But the book is basically a parable. It takes, there's a character named Michael, and he's kind of living an okay life. Seemingly everything is wonderful in his life. So he's successful, he has a good job, he has money, things seem on the outside perfect, except that he feels like everything is just, so what? In other words, okay, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I've gone to school, I did my work, I got a job, I'm independent. So now what? You just go meet somebody, get married, have kids, and then die? Is that it? And he's going through this kind of moment where he's kind of stuck. So there's that's happening for him. At the same time, the book actually begins where his father's in the hospital and he's in the process of losing his father. And he's just in a stuck place in life. And then you keep rolling into the book and the story unfolds where he basically is out one night at a bar, actually. And he gets caught in a moment of what I call storytelling. And you've probably had these moments too. We all have, where you kind of get trapped in a thought and your mind starts imagining and wandering away from the present moment. And you start thinking, well, what if this happened? And how would this play out? Imagining, like in his case, he's at a bar imagining this girl that he likes, this woman that he likes, that he works with, walking in, and he has a conversation with her. And this is all kind of going on in his mind. And the next thing he knows is another woman staring at him and just calls him out on his storytelling. And she says, "You having fun up there?" And he says, "Where?" He says, "In your mind." Because she sees, and we've all seen this on a person, they kind of just look lost. They're going off on a tangent within their mind and they're completely missing the present moment because they're off somewhere else. So over the course of the book, she kind of takes him on this journey of being more present in life and seeing what's available by being present and finding the opportunity and helping him make better decisions based on finding an opportunity. And, like, in other words, having somebody say something to him or having a coworker who he can't stand, and instead of reacting in a negative way, saying, well, what's the opportunity here? Well, how can this change me? Or how can I use this to create a better story for myself? And that's what takes him through the journey of this book.
So beautiful. And oh my gosh. I just because I've been a bartender for forever. So I I probably had some of those moments with people. So what inspired you to write the book?
So writing it was something I'd always wanted to write a book. I mean, I remember being in college. It was my last day of I went to StonyBrook University. It was my last day and I was walking with a friend, and I remember saying to her, if I never put out a book in this life, I will have failed. And then kind of life catches up with you. And you know how we always say we have no time to do things, or we don't know how to get started, or whatever the case is. And one day becomes the next day, which becomes a month, which becomes a year, which becomes years. And you hit a point where you start looking back on your life And it could happen at any age, even looking at the last 5 years of your life, if you're 20 and saying, what did I just do with my journey so far? So for me, this was a big piece of it in terms of, this was a big piece of it in terms of I had never written a book. And I started reflecting and challenging myself as to why, and really questioning why this never happened. And I went through all my, excuse my language, bullshit excuses in my head as to, well, I didn't have characters and I didn't know how to do it. And what's going to happen if I can't write a book? And what if I fail? And what if I went through every single excuse until I hit a wall where I basically was like, you know what, enough's enough. Either you want it enough to do it and make it happen, or you can continue talking about this for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years and end up being one of these people who kind of looks back on their life when they're, for lack of better words, on their deathbed saying, I wish I would have.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's funny because my daughter actually said something to me a few years ago, which was pretty insightful, because she said, I guess the meaning of life is to, when you're going to die, to not look back and say, I wish I had on so many things. And she was like 7 when she said that. And that was just like, boom, you know, she nailed it. But that was my moment for me. And basically I was like, enough. So the way I basically wrote the book was I threw out all the rules or all the beliefs that I had around what a book has to be, about how a book should be written, about all the rules that I imagined. And going back to coaching, it's the same thing with people in general. We construct rules about the way things should be, shouldn't be, could be, etc. And we live by these rules as if they're absolute and as if they're reality. And they're just constructs. They're things that we've made up. Either we've made rules for ourselves, or through growing up and family members or friends or pressures, culture, whatever, rules have been kind of forced upon us. And until we get to a point where we challenge our rules and break through those, we kind of get stuck. And that's what I had done for myself. I challenged myself through the hope.
Rules were made to be followed. They were made to be.
True. Good pun. That's true. What's that?
I learned that from Scott Harris.
He's dead on.
Because the first time I heard it, I'm like, no, we should break the rule. Because, I mean, I don't know if that's always the case or true, but then I got it the second time when he was like, they're made that way.
Yes.
So.
And we have to watch that, because we don't always know what rules are kind of dictating our lives. And unless we get to the point where we challenge that, and it's not easy to do on your own. I mean, it's great. Like I had a lot of, just like you, I listen to Tony Robbins, I listen to Gary Vee. There's so many people I've listened to that have inspired me to challenge myself, that I was able to kind of break through that. And to be honest, I got to coach myself, because there was no way that at that point I knew I couldn't do it. And again, I didn't want to get to the point where I was repeating the same day over and over again. So that was the moment where, this is back in now 2014, around December, Christmas time, where I was kind of like, enough's enough. And I started writing in January 2015.
So I really want to write a book. Do you have any advice for me?
I have tons of advice. Actually, that's the question I get all the time. I actually just created a how to write your own book mini course, because it's been asked so many times. But really simply, a few quickies is just doing it. In other words, this is speaking from my personal experience, so it's not everybody's, but I had a lot of rules about that. You have to have a story outline. You have to have all the characters laid out. You have to know where it's going. And you don't. You don't need to know exactly where it's going. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you've heard authors say the book wrote itself. Or you'll hear songwriters say the song just in 15 minutes came out of me. Wow. It's that kind of thing. When you get into a zone, it just kind of happens. As a matter of fact, one of my clients, literally, I, for lack of better words, encouraged her or pushed her, however you want to look at it, just to start writing about a week and a half ago. And she said she can't believe what's come out in that week and a half. So number one is to really just start writing. So it's, for me, and what I would suggest to you is set a specific time, a specific place, and just sit and start. And it doesn't matter if you don't know where it's going to go. Just get into the flow of writing. The easiest way for me was to kind of ask myself, well, what's going on in my life? And I borrowed from that. So at the time, for example, my wife's father was in hospital. He was in the process of passing. And so right from the get-go, I borrowed that as the opening setting of the Gifted Storyteller.
Wow.
And then I wove it with other things that were going on or things that I made up as well. And you just kind of get to a point where you kind of say, okay, well, what did the character do next? Where did he or she go? Who did he or she meet? And things just start rolling. So I would say the number one thing is really start, and start small. I know that sounds weird because people always say start big, but I would say the opposite. Start small. Like, in other words, for me, I said just do 15 minutes a day. How can you argue with 15 minutes of writing a day, right? So after I put my daughter to bed, this is back, 5 years ago, I would go to the living room, sit in the same chair, take out my iPad, and just start writing. And all I committed to was 15 minutes. If I couldn't do more than 15 minutes, then I didn't do more than 15 minutes. But I had to do at least 15 minutes. Some days it was 15 minutes. Most days it was probably like 45 minutes. But the key was I did it every single day. Like developing any pattern or habit in your life, it's the repetition.
The mother's.
What's that?
That's a common theme today. Repetition is the mother of skill.
Yes, and the mother of invention too. So I just kept at it. And I had no idea what the book was going to be about. I just knew I wanted to write. I didn't know characters. I didn't know any of it. And it literally just unfolded day in, day out. And I did that pretty much from January till about April or May, where every single day I wrote. Weekends, there was no weekends. There was no day off. It was every single day. It was actually when I started taking a day that things kind of fell apart. But at that point, I had most of the book done. And once I took that day, and just giving you fair warning, then another time I took a day or 2 days, and that became a week. And then I actually took a huge break, and then in July reopened it and looked at what I had done. And I was like, okay. So I started again, but I didn't keep up with it. And again, it fell apart in terms of that pattern. But again, I picked it up because I had a clear deadline for myself. I knew that this book had to be finished by December. That was my commitment to myself. I set a clear outline of when I wanted this to be done. Not outline, outcome rather. So having a clear outcome, at least in terms of time, is key.
Was it so about a year?
It took me a year to write.
Awesome. If
I would have condensed that time, it would have taken me a lot less. But because I fell into old habits, which we all do at times, of stopping and starting and stopping and starting. It's the typical, exercise plan or anything else that people do, unless you keep with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but I've learned since then, and in the end, it worked out perfectly.
And so, how is the process of you? Can I just ask one quick question? Because it's just, I love the colors that you chose and the butterfly. Can you just please go back to the white thing, or I just need to know?
Yeah. So the first book didn't have that, and one of the things that I wrote about in the second version was I started talking about the concept of being in a cocoon and a butterfly kind of emerging as an analogy at certain points in the book. And the butterfly, which was actually present on the first cover but not part of the book, became more of a main part of the second book. Oh. And then the ripples were kind of how the concept of it's, like chaos theory. A butterfly flaps its wings in one part of the world and creates a storm in another part of the world. That's
crazy. Yeah. Who said that recently? I've just heard that.
I always remember from Jurassic Park. That's where I remember it from.
No, there was a speaker. I'm on literally whoever, and I'm on 5-6 different things a day sometimes. So someone just mentioned that somewhere. Maybe it was, I don't know. Maybe it was the Unify. Not sure, but that's crazy. That's crazy.
But you don't know how a decision or action you take is going to impact the world. You might joke that, well, how is a butterfly flapping its wings going to change the entire world or the currents of the world? But you don't know how one thing. It's like throwing a stone in the water and just watching those ripples kind of go out. You don't know where they technically end, and just because you can't see them doesn't mean it's not continuing. It's the same with energy. When you express kindness to a person or give to somebody, or the same way that you're doing this, you're interviewing people and you're sharing insights, you're sharing your own knowledge, and just like you said when we spoke earlier, that you get emails and you get, contacted, that what you're creating is impacting people that you've never met.
Yeah.
And actually, that's something I talk about in the book as well.
Today, I mean, I was in tears with someone in my mastermind because she was crying and just proud of me. And I was like, wow, I'm loving this and I didn't enjoy this so much, but I just never knew like how much. Wow, that really meant a lot to me.
And I think Tony Robbins once said it, where basically he gave the analogy of like watching an Olympics, and there was I forgot who the person was, but basically a really old gentleman came out, barely walking, but walking, had a gold medal on, and it was announced that he was, the long distance runner from like 60, 70 years ago. And, people were cheering and people were crying. And it's just the concept that when somebody does something that inspires you, the same way you're doing, you connect with that because you recognize your own greatness within you when you're seeing somebody else do something. So you see somebody make something happen and then it inspires you to know that part of you, that you can do it too, and you want to.
Yeah, I've seen that a few times too. And that's amazing. That's part of the ripples, I think, that you're talking about.
Exactly. But yeah, so the book, I mean, it's a short book. It's a quick read. It's meant to be. Because honestly, I don't like dense books personally. I like to be able to read something and walk away with something rather quickly, because a lot of books sit on my shelf, or used to sit on my shelf for a long time. So I wanted to write something that was quick and simple, that you could literally read in a day if you wanted to, a couple of hours, and just leave you with a few thoughts. So there's a lot in there. And one of the things that I put at the end, as I had mentioned, is just a bunch of lessons from the actual book. So you can kind of do little quick exercises for yourself to implement some of it.
So much. I write in a lot of my books. And so that's beautiful that you have that in there for us. And I wanted to talk about how you said that you're giving, if they order the book tonight, there's a.
Yeah. So there was a promotion I started about a week ago. And it ends today, actually. But basically, because so many people had mentioned, well, how do I get started in writing a book? So what I did and was suggested to me is to create a course. So I created a mini course. It's like literally can be done in under an hour and a half, in terms of just getting you started with the step-by-step things you need to do, working from reconditioning your mindset to setting up time, and takes you through like 5 or 6 lessons on how to make sure you get started and make it happen. Because so many people talk about the things that they want to do, and then they'll sign up for courses and then they don't really take them. So again, similar to the book, I wanted to make sure I was giving something to people that was easy to do, follow, and get done with it so you can begin doing. So yeah, so I had that promotion going on. It's still going on now. And then it's going to be a course that I'm going to charge for eventually, but right now it's free. If you buy the book and send in your Amazon number and a snapshot of your receipt, you'll get a coupon for the course.
Well, I know what I'm doing after this call. Well, thank you for sharing this all with me and the audience. And I'm so excited for you. And I just love the whole concept. And I'm excited to get my hands on it and see the extended version, fill out everything in there, and start writing my book.
Yay. And I'm excited for you too. I think you're doing a magnificent job with these interviews and your upcoming, interviews and live casts and podcasts. Who knows what's ahead for you, but you're doing a fantastic job. So just keep doing it.
I love you. Thank you. And I plan on it. So I have to kind of like marry all my, my things. And I want to ask you what your favorite food is for inspiration.
One food or like style of food?
Both. So
style of food, I love like Asian food. I love like Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Malaysian, Thai food. Just something about that food that just like my mouth salivates. So, but if I had to go to a go-to food, I'd probably do something like a sushi.
All right. We got 2 sushis so far from the guests. That's amazing. And what's your favorite sushi roll? Do you like a certain roll, or do you like sashimi, or?
It depends on the mood. Like, in other words, I love like salmon. fresh salmon. But I like Ika too. A lot of people don't like it. They feel it's too chewy, but I really like the texture of it.
Awesome. And then if you had one superpower, what would it be?
One superpower. Oof. The first instinct was to say to fly.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
was my first instinct.
but time travel would be really cool too. What was that question?
Somebody said that they wish they could communicate with any language at any time. That's a cool one.
That's very cool, but I believe that we'll be able to do that soon enough.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it won't be the same as actually knowing the language in and out, because that's a complete window to another person's world. But yeah.
That was a good one.
I think I'd go with flying.
Where would you fly to first?
Somewhere really tropical. Somewhere really tropical. It's actually, I was watching something yesterday and they were showing this island in the Pacific Ocean, but it takes like 2 days to like just take a boat there, to charter a boat there. So it's that kind of thing where, you know, just that you could fly out to any island or any experience and kind of spend a little time there, even to go to Antarctica or something crazy like that. Well, that's not crazy, but for me, it would be. I don't love the cold, but it would be great to experience and sightsee, you know?
Cool. I do. That was my first go-to as well, is to fly.
Nice.
And then do you have any advice that you want to give to people or anything that's on your heart?
Yeah, I think especially considering this time that we're in, really taking stock of where you kind of are in life. So, you know, a lot of us can look back at, well, actually, let me rephrase. Like, if you look at where you are right now, there are a lot of things that people, aside from people getting sick and all that, which is terrible, there are moments that people are really enjoying. They have more time with their family, perhaps, or they don't have to commute. So they have more time available to do other things, or they're finding themselves less stressed because they're not responding to emails, let's say, in the same way. So what I would recommend to people is really make a list and take stock of what's really working for you well right now. And also thinking back to the way things were before and what didn't serve you. What habits were you running? What were you feeling? What was going on in your life? Even if it was something like, well, I spent listening too much time listening to people gossip, whatever it is. What didn't serve you then? What does serve you now? And start making a conscious plan to bring the things that you want into your life, into the new normal. Because people keep saying things are going to go back to the way they were. They're not. They're never going to go back to the way they were. There's going to be a new now. Things are going to be different, but things can be 10,000 times better if you use this time wisely to really think about what's going well for you and making sure you bring that forward into your future. And if we all kind of did that and took up, you know, whether it was a hobby or a new habit of thought, you know, you could change your entire life. I forgot who said it, like, never waste a really good tragedy. You know, this is like, it's a crisis, but it can be an opportunity if used properly. So find the opportunity, find what is going well, find what you truly want to do, because you can also go on the fact that, look, how many people we've lost, how many people lost relatives, family, friends, etc. You don't know. You don't know how things are going to turn out. So it's a great opportunity to take charge of your own life and do the things you want so you can live the unbelievable life you deserve and want.
That really resonated with me, and it's been something I've been thinking about, like even doing, like actually doing the things that I want to do. And I keep thinking, like, making like kind of like a deal with myself, like, look, Jen, like a conversation, like you're going to stick with this. Like whether it's like, you know, whatever, like going food shopping and getting the foods and that I want to help make me healthy or whatever it is, you know, and it's like, why am I doing this now?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't want it to be like another example is like 9/11. I mean, you remember, like we were just, everybody was like so loving to each other. And then when things went back to normal, everybody was kind of back to the hustle and, you know, it wasn't as nice. But I think just for personally, I'm setting intentions, like I'm going to keep this like as a, you know, as a skill, as a new goal, as a new routine, because it feels good.
So the key is to memorialize that. Like, in other words, write that down. Write down like the 10 rules for Jen going forward. You know, that, oh, she's got it there. Oh, but make sure, yes, because that's what you need. You can't just keep it in your head. You got to get it out there. You got it on paper, and you got to commit to it. And for people who are listening, whether it's, again, writing it down, whether it's reading, whether it's getting a coach, make sure it happens, because life moves fast. Look, 3 months ago, we would have been laughing if we said we'd be like this.
Yeah.
You know?
It took me a while to accept that it was reality. I was like, no, I had my bags packed. I was going to, I was going to California. I was like, no, that's not happening.
Yeah. So yeah, use your life wisely, use your time wisely, because honestly, everybody deserves it. They deserve the opportunity to make great decisions for themselves and do things that make them truly happy, supporting one another and finding a way to make everything better. And again, going back to the butterfly analogy, you change yourself, you change your life, you have no idea who you're going to impact.
Every time you say that, I get chills. And I just love the design. I love the colors, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on that book. Cool. So I'm going to post that in this caption. And Gregg, thank you so much for coming on. It was so good to see you and just be in your presence again. And yeah, hopefully we connect again soon.
Absolutely. Truly a pleasure, Jen. Thank you so much.
Welcome. All right, guys. Well, I love you. Happy Monday. I love Mondays. Start loving Mondays. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Ciao.